What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. Week 3 of the Autumn Nations is getting ever closer. So, of course, we need to do some preview videos where, of course, we check out the official teams that have been announced to play on the weekend. We go through the teams to think who's some good picks, some bad picks, maybe some different choices we would have made, and finally give a score prediction. If you enjoy this sort of style of rugby video, make sure to subscribe. And as always, drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the team. Now, first video of today, France versus South Africa. Not the order we're going to be seeing the games on the weekend, just the order I've seen the teams announced in. So let's start off talking about France first, because obviously last week France played Australia in a game that was quite underwhelming for me. I wasn't that impressed by the France team. I was really expecting a big performance from them, coming off of that Six Nations Grand Slam, winning some games against Japan in the summer, going into Australia, let's see what they can offer. And it felt a little sort of relaxed, a bit sort of sitting back, sort of kicking, sort of, yeah, we'll sort of slowly get there. There was a bit of like a belief they were just sort of going to win passively. They didn't really have that much aggression from me. I wanted to see a bit more from France. So I'm hoping this week, maybe they're a bit cold going into this Autumn Nations series, so hopefully they'll warm up a bit into it. So let's check out the team that has been announced for this game versus South Africa. Starting off in this front row, Cyril Bay, Julien Marchand and Antonio. Now, forward pack gonna be big game. We saw what the South African team versus Ireland was like last week with some of their forwards fighting each other. The French scrum, I think, did decently enough against Australia, so having the big boys on, absolutely the way to go. But the driving maul is one of the key areas you want to deal with when it comes up against South Africa, if you're going to be able to hold it together. Now, penalty count's quite high for France last week, so again, you want to be watching how they're going to be able to deal with those mauls, whether penalties could come from that position. In the lock department, Cameron Vauquy comes in the number 4 shirt and Flamand in the 5 shirt. So line-out situations them last week were pretty good. The Australian jumpers actually did pretty well, to be fair, but France's line-out looking relatively stable for the majority of the games. So they won't want too many changes there. And then finally, in this back row, we have, of course, Jalanche comes in the number 6 shirt. Olivon retains the 7 shirt. And Gregory Aldrit, who had a great game, actually. Again, I thought he was doing so well. Ball carrying, turnovers. He was one of the few, actually, that didn't feel that cold coming into it. He felt like he was really playing well. So that's a good back line. It's nice to see Jalanche come back in on that 6 shirt. Overall, 1-8, looking pretty good. In the halfback partnership, Antoine Dupont retains that captaincy at number 9, who, yeah, he was one for me last week. Didn't really feel like we got to see the best of Dupont last week. Hopefully he'll improve a little bit in this one. Ntamack retains that fly half shirt. There was talk about whether or not Jalibert would actually want to take over in the 10 shirt. I don't think a lot of people were that impressed with Ntamack last week. So again, another area where France are normally so key. I just want to see a bit of improvement there. In the centre partnership, Jonathan Darty comes in alongside of Gaël Ficou. The centre partnership that was doing well again last week. Jonathan Darty, I think, is quite an underrated player in terms of international. He's not really a centre we talk about a lot when we talk about, world-class centres. I think Jonathan Darty's got a career to be able to generate here. I think he's extremely good ball carrying, good work in the breakdown is really good for him. He's a big guy. He clears out rucks. He gets over jackals. He's a hard dude to move. I am a big fan of him. And then finally in the back 3, Mofana, Damien Penaud, and Thomas Ramos, who played really well last week. A lot of points come from the boot of Ramos. I thought his running play was good. I'm not actually sure who got man of the match last week. I think Gregory Aldrit might have got man of the match. But I thought Ramos played really well. And that's what you want, a good kicker. I mean, South Africa, for a lot of South African fans watching this video probably, will be knowing what the pain is like if you don't have a good goal kicker. Thomas Ramos is there. You can't really afford to give him the chance at the 3 points because he will absolutely take it. In the replacements then, Mao Vaca, who had a big impact from the bench last week. Nice to see. Wardy and Falatea coming in as well. So a couple of new names for me there. Looking forward to see them come on. Roman Taufai-Funua coming in alongside of Bastien Chalaru. That's a brand new name for me. Hopefully I've got the pronunciation sort of right. If not, feel free to drop down the phonetic spelling for me so I can get it right next week. And finally, you've also got Makalu in there. So they've gone for the 6-2 split. Now, I think this is the right way to play against South Africa. Have the 6-2 split, load up your forwards, especially when you know how good your own defence is in France, how good the breakdown situation is France. Backing your forwards, have more on, go through the forwards, win more clear outs, get more turnovers. I think it's the right way to go. We didn't get to see a lot of Makalu last week, actually. I did have a comment. Someone did say that Makalu is also capable of playing on the wing, which I love. I love that concept. Like, just chuck a forward on the wing. Why not? He's a fast dude. Can go in anywhere, really. Can go in lock, can go in the flanker position, can go at number 8. Got a lot of versatility in him as a player. And then in the back for replacements, then we have Maxime Loukou alongside of Mathieu Jalibert, who again came on. I expected, big performance as soon as he came on the field. And there was a lot of sitting back, a lot of kicking tennis. trying to feel it out. It was a little bit slow from him. I'm really looking forward to hopefully get to see France do some running rugby, but a team like South Africa, quite a hard team to play running rugby against, so we'll have to see how they get on. On to South Africa then, who, like I said last week, did go on to play Ireland and barely lost out on that game. It was the big clash that we had last weekend. It was a really fun game to watch. The world #1 versus the current world champions. Where were they going to go? And from reading the comment section and reading the polls that we did on the channel, that was everyone's favourite game last week for the majority. But one of the big areas, very concerning for South Africa, not really about how they were playing the game, but just gotta have someone who can kick at the post. I felt really bad. Willemse, when we saw him in the Rugby Championship, wasn't terrible towards kicking to post. He was no means like hitting 100% accuracy, but seeing him at fly half, he was maintaining the game well at fly half and also getting those kicks over for a pretty high percentage. I think he missed one in the last game, if I'm going to remember this. I think he missed one, and then they swapped the kicking duties back to Cheslin Colby. I'm not sure if Colby was always the man that was going to be kicking, but due to his yellow card is why Willemse took over. But Colby missed about 3 or 4 crucial kicks. So when you see about how close that game was last week, man alive, you've got to be working on your kickers this week to have them sorted out. Otherwise, South Africa could be in for a very long day. Checking out the team then that South Africa believe can beat the French then. A couple of swaps going around in this team this week. So in the front row, Oxenche comes in alongside of Bongi Mbanambi, as well as Frans Malherbe. So switch-ups in this front row. I think maybe they're just going to test the waters a bit. I still think Malcolm Marx, for me, is your starting first choice. But he started so many games where he starts on the bench and makes a big impact. Maybe South Africa are planning on this one being a bit of a slow first half. And when your bench comes on in that second half is where they're going to make the big difference. But we'll see how they get on. In the lock department, Eben Etzebeth goes in alongside of Franco Mostert. I do think I read something about Ludiaga having a bit of an injury in the last game or picking up a bit of a twinge. So been left out of this one. In the back three, Sia Khaleesi retains his captaincy alongside of Peter Steph Dutoit and Jasper Wiese. And as some ball carriers, a couple of people were down on them last week in terms of their big ball carriers, saying they weren't really making a big impact. Again, I think Quagga Smith might have made more of an impact from the bench in that second half. Hopefully we'll get to see these boys impact a little bit more. Ireland is a tough team to play against just because of how good they are in the breakdown situation. You're constantly having to load your rucks up with extra people just to not have those turnovers. So sometimes it kills your own momentum to get those big forwards in. But overall, it's still a good 1-8 from South Africa. In the halfback partnership, Faf de Klerk comes in alongside of Damien Willemse retaining his 10 shirt. A lot of people wanted to see Faf de Klerk last week. We've seen games he's had before against some of the big players. France have big forwards. So what's he called? Like the Giant Killer or something, I think was his nickname. I love that he's a small guy, but he will absolutely get in your face. In the centre partnership, Damien Dialende and Jesse Creel. Jesse Creel, I had some mega tackles last week as well. Nice to see from him. I've seen so many comments, people being up or down about him. People either love Jesse Creel or really dislike him. I thought last week he had some really good defence on his side, so hopefully he continues that this week. And then in the back three, Kurtley Rense moves to the left wing. Cheslin Colby moves from his fullback position into right wing, and Willie Leroux comes in that fullback position. Now, I think this is probably the right move. Cheslin Colby didn't really do a lot last game. He got yellow carded, he gave penalties, he missed kicks. Maybe there's too much pressure, maybe there's too much sort of spotlight on him. For me, Cheslin Colby's a right winger all day long. Chuck him on the wing. I think that's where he works best. Give him some room to open up. Willie Leroux came on last week, made a huge impact, just organising both the attack and defence in that South African line. I think he had a really nice impact into the game. So hopefully by starting this week, it means that South Africa will get off to the front foot a little bit more as opposed to waiting for that second half. So overall, it's a good 1-15, and I like some of the changes they made. I think they might have made changes in some of the right areas there. In terms of the replacements, then of course we have Malcolm Marx, who will be coming on at some point in that second half, alongside of Stephen Kitchoff and Vincent Koch. Expecting big work from those lads. We know France have already gone for that 6-2 split. You've got to be coming on. You've got to be going hard. You've got to be trying to win penalties as soon as you come on. Alongside of Marvin Ori and Quagga Smith. Like I said, I think he had a really good game last week. Now, South Africa have gone for the 5-3 split. France have gone for the 6-2. The reason I say I always think it's a good reason to go for the 6-2 against South Africa is because of how much they back their forwards. This week, they've gone for the 5-3. They're trying to mix it up a bit, but I really feel like France and South Africa are so mega in terms of their forward packs I think the 5-3 could be the wrong call this week. Of course, I could always be wrong. That's how the world of rugby goes. I'm not a prophet. I don't actually know what's going to happen. But I feel like with how good Sean Edwards' defence is in that France team and how good they are in the breakdown situation, they've had a game to warm up now. They will have gelled together a bit more. Going into this game, they'll know the threat South Africa forwards offer. I can see them loading this game up, especially with seeing that 5-3 split announced. In the rest of the replacements, then we have in the backs Kobus Reinach coming in, who I'm looking forward to see a bit more game time from. I haven't really seen a lot from him. Liebok, and finally Mapimpi now. Liebok or Libok, I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but I've seen a lot of people saying, get this boy on at fly half. Have him start at fly half. Put Willemse back at fullback. So really looking forward to see what he offers. I don't know a lot about him at all. But Mapimpi, a name we should all know by now. Absolutely mega in terms of try scoring. Interesting to have him come on later. I think there maybe could have been a call here to have kept Mapimpi on the left wing, had Orense on the right wing, and had Cheslin Colby actually in the on the bench, because that way he could come on and replace winger or fullback depending on injuries. And also when the game opens up a little bit later into the game, maybe there's a bit more room for him to work. He comes on full stamina. Maybe there would have been some better room there. So for me, a couple of changes that could have been made there, but overall, it's still a good South African team. So what do we think about a score prediction then, guys? This one's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be one of the more fun games on the weekend, I think. I think for me, I'm still going to lean towards France. I think South Africa played better than France did last week. But I'm still not convinced about that kicking duties. I imagine it's been one of the biggest things talked about in that training squad this week for them. But the French kickers are absolutely on it. The breakdown penalties that can come from France's forwards, I think, will offer Ramos plenty of opportunities to kick for the 3 points. We've seen what people like Damien Penaud do. It doesn't take a lot of room for him to get down that wing and score tries. Playing in France after a Grand Slam win as well. We've seen other teams try and do it. So I'm going to say a France win. And I'm going to say France to win. I'm going to say by 6. I'm going to say France to win by 6. But of course, guys, drop down in the comments your thoughts on the game and your score predictions. If you haven't already, make sure they are going on to the Super Brew board, which of course we'll be reviewing on Monday's video. I hope you all enjoyed this one today, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.